Have you ever wondered what happens when the people who carry the entire system on their back simply decide they're done carrying it? When the ones who build, protect, pay, and produce look around, realize nobody has their back, and quietly put the load down and walk away. What you're watching right now isn't just a trend, it's the slow motion collapse of an economic order that took men for granted for decades. And by the time you finish this video, you're going to see exactly why millions of men have decided that protecting their peace is worth more than saving a society that threw them away. Stick with me to the very end because I'm going to show you the numbers, the receipts, and the cold hard reality that almost nobody else is willing to say out loud. If you want more unfiltered, no BS, angry guy content like this, smash that like button right now. Share this video with every man you know who's waking up, and subscribe with notifications on so you never miss a drop. And while you're down there, go click the link in the description and check out Angry's Crypto Academy. That's where I teach men step by step how to buy, sell, trade, and protect their assets in a world that's trying to bleed us dry. The full academy is linked below. Go enroll today and start building the financial fortress you're going to need in the years ahead. And if these videos are hitting home for you, if they're waking you up or giving you the clarity you've been looking for, show some love and buy me a Red Bull through the link in the description. Every can keeps the fire coming. Let's get into it. Picture this. It's 2015. You're a regular guy. You work hard, you pay your taxes, you try to do the right thing. You've been told your whole life that if you just grind, if you just put in the hours, if you just become high value, then one day you'll get the house, the wife, the kids, the respect. You believed it. You swallowed the blue pill fairy tale hook, line, and sinker. You went to college, took on the debt, climbed the corporate ladder, bought the overpriced truck, and started swiping on dating apps, hoping to find the one. And what did you get for it? That you got called toxic for sitting with your knees apart on the subway. You got dragged through the mud by hashtags like kill all men trending on the same platforms where women bragged about needing a man like a fish needs a bicycle. You got told that your natural masculinity was the problem, that your desire to lead and protect was actually oppression, and that paying for dinner made you a walking wallet with legs. You watched as the family court system turned good men into ATM machines while giving custody to mothers 84% of the time. You watched as the media celebrated single motherhood like it was a superpower while never asking who was paying the bills. You watched as the culture shifted from let's build something together to I don't need a man, I have a career and a vibrator and a government check. And then somewhere along the way, a whole generation of men stopped, looked around, and asked one simple question: what exactly am I killing myself for? That question changed everything. Because once a man asks that question and actually waits for an honest answer, the silence is deafening. There is no answer that makes sense anymore. There is no reward worth the risk. There is no future worth the sacrifice. And when millions of men reach that same conclusion at roughly the same time, the ripple effects don't just change dating, they change the entire economy. See, most people think the economy runs on money. It doesn't. It runs on male effort. It runs on men waking up at 5 a.m. to pour concrete in the rain. It runs on men pulling 80-hour weeks in jobs they hate so some corporation can hit its quarterly numbers. It runs on men paying 80% of all income taxes while women control 80% of consumer spending. It runs on men believing that if they just work hard enough, they'll earn a life worth living. Take that belief away, and the whole machine starts to sputter. And that's exactly what's happening right now. Tens of millions of men across the Western world have quietly exited the script. They're not protesting in the streets. They're not burning anything down. They're doing something far more dangerous to the system. They're doing nothing. They're staying home. They're sleeping in. They're playing video games. They're day trading crypto from their laptops. They're driving for rideshare apps when they feel like it and turning the app off when they don't. They're building tiny houses, moving to low cost countries, stacking Bitcoin, collecting dividends, and living on half of what they used to make. Because half is still plenty when you're not supporting an ungrateful partner, her kids, her debt, and her lifestyle. They've gone minimalist, they've gone monk, they've gone ghost, and society is only now starting to feel the earthquake that comes when the tectonic plates of male productivity stop moving. Let me paint you a picture with real numbers. In the United States alone, the labor force participation rate for prime age men, men aged 25 to 54, has been falling for decades. As of 2024, it sits at about 88.5%, down from 98% in the 1950s. That might not sound like a lot, but when you're talking about tens of millions of men, every percentage point is millions of lives and billions of dollars in lost economic output. The US Bureau of Labor Statistics calls them NILF, not in labor force. The media calls them lazy. I call them the smartest guys in the room because these men looked at the deal on the table and said, no thanks. They looked at the average marriage that ends with the man losing half his net worth, most of his kids, and 20 to 30% of his future income for the next 2 decades, and they said, hard pass. They looked at the dating market where the top 10% of men get 90% of the attention, and the average guy has to spend thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours just to maybe get a coffee date with someone who's already planning the exit strategy. And they said, I'd rather lift weights and level up in Elden Ring. They looked at the 60 to 80-hour work weeks required to afford a 3-bedroom house in a safe neighborhood and realized that house was going to be occupied by a single mother and her new boyfriend anyway. And they said, why am I breaking my back for that? And the most dangerous part, these men aren't angry anymore. That's what scares the system the most. Angry men can be shamed, controlled, medicated, incarcerated, but men who are calm, who have made peace with walking away, who are genuinely content eating rice and chicken, hitting the gym, and stacking sats in solitude, those men are unstoppable because you can't negotiate with a man who wants nothing from you. You can't shame a man who no longer cares about your opinion. You can't tax a man who has minimized his taxable footprint. And you can't force a man to care about a society that told him from birth that his value began and ended with his ability to provide for people who hate him. That's the new reality. And the irony is delicious. Remember the boss babe era? Remember when every influencer with a ring light and a Starbucks cup was telling women they could have it all? The career, the travels, the independence, the casual hookups with top tier men who would never commit because why buy the cow when the milk is free and government subsidized? Remember when those same women bragged that they didn't need a man, that they were the table, that a man would be lucky to have them. Fast forward to 2025, and those same women are making TikToks crying about inflation. They're complaining that rent is unaffordable on a single income. They're confused about why the government checks aren't stretching like they used to. They're asking out loud where all the good men went. Where did they go? They went exactly where you told them to go. You told them you didn't need them, so they stopped offering. You told them they were toxic, so they stopped approaching. You told them their role was to shut up and pay, so they stopped earning more than they needed. You priced them out of the relationship market with impossible standards, divorce rape laws, and a culture that celebrates female hypergamy while shaming male selectivity. And now you're shocked that they opted out entirely. Congratulations, you won. You got the world you demanded. Now live in it. And before anyone twists this into misogyny, let's be very clear. This is not about hating women. This is about loving men enough to tell them the truth that nobody is coming to save them, the truth that the social contract has been shredded, the truth that the only person who is guaranteed to have a man's back is the man in the mirror. This is about men finally putting themselves first after a lifetime of being told that self sacrifice was the highest virtue. Hey guys, in a world pushing you to own nothing and be happy, crypto is your key to survival. Join Angry's Crypto Academy to master buying, selling, and trading crypto. Make huge profits and safeguard your wealth. Plus, discover the one crypto virtually no one is talking about, poised to create new millionaires in the upcoming bull run. The link is in the description of the video below. Go check it out now. And the craziest part? These men are happier than they've ever been. They're healthier, they're wealthier in real terms, they're calmer, they sleep better, their testosterone is higher, their bank accounts are growing, they travel when they want, they eat steak, they lift heavy, they have time to read, to think, to build, to create on their terms. They've discovered something ancient that society spent decades trying to erase. A man who masters himself needs nothing and no one else. That's the ultimate red pill. And society is panicking because it's starting to realize the economy was never about equality. It was about exploiting male disposability while pretending it was empowerment. Think about it. Who builds the roads? Who fixes the power lines in a hurricane? Who pays the overwhelming majority of alimony and child support? Who dies in wars? Who works the dangerous jobs that keep civilization running? Men. Always men. And for decades, the deal was you do all that, you carry the world, and in exchange, you get a family, respect, legacy, and a society that at least pretends to value you. That deal is off the table. So men are doing what any rational actor would do. They're reducing effort to the minimum required for their own survival and happiness. And the result is an economic slow motion car crash that almost nobody wants to talk about. Consumer spending is drying up in the exact categories that kept the debt fueled economy afloat. Luxury handbags, overpriced brunches, destination weddings, McMansions full of furniture nobody sits on. The birth rate is collapsing, which means fewer future consumers and fewer future taxpayers. Tax revenue is shrinking while government obligations explode. The welfare state is becoming mathematically impossible to sustain. In other words, the system is eating itself because the golden goose finally looked up and said, wait a minute, why am I doing this? And that's where we are right now. Now let's zoom out and look at the bigger chessboard. Because what's happening isn't just a bunch of guys deciding to play Call of Duty instead of pulling overtime. This is the single largest uncoordinated labor strike in human history. Except nobody's holding picket signs. Nobody's asking for higher wages. Nobody's negotiating. They just stop showing up in the ways that matter most to the machine. And the machine is starting to cough blood. You've got central banks printing trillions, inflation eating paychecks alive, housing prices completely detached from wages, and a government that can't balance a budget if its life depended on it. All of that was being papered over by one thing: millions of men voluntarily overproducing for decades because they believed there was a prize at the end of the tunnel, a family, a legacy, a woman who would have their back the same way they had hers, a country that would at least pretend to honor their sacrifice. That belief is gone, evaporated. And when belief dies, behavior follows. So now you have millions of men who used to earn 80, 90, 100,000 a year, paying massive tax bills, buying trucks, paying for dates, financing weddings, supporting stay-at-home wives, paying child support, paying alimony. And they've looked at the math and realized they can live just as well, actually better, on 35,000 a year or less if they cut the fat, move to a cheaper area, stack skills that pay remotely, or simply learn to live like a man instead of a human doing. They're not poor, they're efficient, they're not broken, they're awake, they're not depressed, they're deliberate. And the numbers don't lie. Between 2019 and 2025, the United States lost approximately 6.8 million prime age men from the labor force who are neither working nor looking for work. That's not counting the millions more who are underemployed on purpose, driving Uber 3 days a week, doing some freelance coding, trading options, flipping watches, running a small faceless YouTube channel. Whatever keeps the lights on without selling their soul 40 hours a week. The Federal Reserve itself put out a paper in 2023 admitting they have no idea why so many men are missing from the economy. They called it a mystery. It's not a mystery, it's a walkaway. Japan has been living with this for 30 years. They call it herbivore men. Young Japanese guys who looked at lifetime employment, insane work hours, marriage, kids, and said, no, thank you. Birth rate collapsed. Economy stagnated. Real estate crashed. And the government has been trying everything: cash handouts, tax breaks, public shaming campaigns, and nothing works. Once men figure out the game is rigged, you can't unring that bell. We're just watching the same movie, only in fast forward and with worse dialogue. And here's where it gets really spicy. The same women who spent the last 15 years telling men they were obsolete are now making videos with titles like "Where Have All the Good Men Gone?" and "Why is Dating So Hard in 2025?" and "I'm lonely and inflation is killing me." Ma'am, you're not lonely. You're experiencing consequences in real time. You're not broke. You're just discovering what life costs when there's no silent male taxpayer in the background subsidizing your choices. You wanted equality? Cool. Here's the bill. Because for decades, the average man was paying into a system that quietly transferred wealth from men to women through taxes, through direct provision, through marriage, through child support, through alimony, through going into debt to keep a woman happy who was already planning her exit. Studies out of the UK and Australia show that over a lifetime, the average woman will consume roughly 70,000 to 150,000 pounds more in public services than she pays in taxes, while the average man is a net contributor by six figures. That's not ideology, that's math. And men have done the new math. They've realized that if they simply stop overproducing, stop getting married, stop having kids, stop paying for dates, stop working the dangerous jobs, stop paying the majority of taxes, then the entire pyramid scheme starts to wobble. And it is wobbling hard right now. You see it in the birth rates. The US fertility rate is now 1.62, well below replacement. Eastern Europe is worse. South Korea is at 0.72. That's not a birth rate. That's an extinction event in slow motion. And no amount of government baby bonuses or please come back PSAs is going to fix it, because men aren't saying no out of spite. They're saying no because the cost benefit equation is catastrophic. You see it in the housing market. Who do you think was buying all those overpriced starter homes? Young couples, young men trying to lock down a woman before she hit the wall. Now, those men are renting a room for $800 a month, splitting Wi Fi four ways, eating ground beef and rice, and stacking the difference into Bitcoin or index funds. The housing market is being propped up by private equity and foreign buyers, not organic family formation. That's a bubble with a countdown timer. You see it in luxury retail. Coach, Michael Kors, Louis Vuitton, sales are down across the board. Why? Because the guys who used to drop $3,000 on a purse to keep a mid girlfriend happy aren't dating anymore. They're buying gym memberships and protein powder. You see it in the car market. New car sales for under 40 men are collapsing. Why buy a $60,000 truck to impress a woman who thinks you're a walking red flag for owning a truck in the first place? Every sector that relied on male simpery is bleeding. And the best part, these men aren't suffering. They're thriving. They wake up when their body tells them to. They train. They eat clean. They read, they meditate, they travel to Thailand for 3 months on savings that used to be one mortgage payment. They have zero debt, growing portfolios, and peace that no amount of money could buy when they were trapped in the old script. And I want you to really let this sink in. The system told men, be providers or you're worthless. Then it removed every incentive to provide. Then it punished men who tried anyway. And now it's shocked that men stopped providing. That's not a bug, that's the feature. And the panic is only beginning. You've got think pieces in the Atlantic and the New York Times asking, why are men checking out? You've got politicians talking about falling birth rates like it's a weather event they have no control over. You've got economists warning that Social Security and Medicare are going insolvent decades ahead of schedule because there aren't enough working age men paying in to support the retiring population. They're all describing the symptoms. None of them want to say the cause out loud. The cause is simple. Men looked at the return on investment for participating in society and realized it was negative triple digits. Marriage, negative ROI. Kids, negative ROI if you count family court risk. Corporate career, negative ROI after taxes, commute, stress, and soul death. Dating market, negative ROI when the average woman has 1,000 options and zero accountability. So they did what any rational investor does when the ROI goes negative, they pulled their capital. Only this time, the capital is their life energy, their time, their labor, their future. And once that capital is gone, it doesn't come back just because you change the marketing. You can't shame a man who no longer seeks female validation. You can't tax a man who earns below the taxable threshold on purpose. You can't draft a man who already sees the country as a hostile entity. You can't guilt a man who has made peace with dying alone if that's what freedom requires. That's the new archetype. The peaceful warrior who wants nothing from you, and society has no playbook for that. Every previous rebellion, union, civil rights, feminism, wanted a seat at the table, wanted more, wanted recognition, wanted resources. This one wants less, wants nothing, wants to be left alone. That's why it's so terrifying to the powers that be. Because you can't negotiate with someone whose price is simply zero interaction. So now the coping begins. You've got dating coaches telling women to lower their standards as if men are hiding in a bunker waiting for permission. You've got politicians floating ideas like taxing single men extra. Good luck collecting that when he lives in a van in the desert on thin solar and Starlink. You've got media running stories about how lonely men are, ignoring the mountain of data showing single men are happier, healthier, and live longer than married men. You've got feminists saying, we never needed men anyway, while quietly deleting their old I don't need no man TikToks because rent is due and OnlyFans isn't paying the bills anymore. And through all of it, the men who walked away just keep walking. They keep lifting, they keep stacking, they keep leveling up in private. They keep their circle tight and their peace non negotiable. And every day, another 1,000 men wake up, look at the burning circus, and decide they're not running in to put out the fire. They're just stepping back, grabbing a lawn chair, and watching it burn from a safe distance because the fire isn't theirs anymore. The circus isn't theirs anymore. The debt isn't theirs anymore. The drama isn't theirs anymore. Only their peace is theirs. And they will defend that with everything they have. That's where we are in 2025. And we haven't even hit the halfway mark of what's coming because this movement isn't slowing down. It's accelerating. Every time another man gets divorce raped on TikTok and it goes viral, another 10,000 men wake up. Every time another high value woman makes a video demanding a man who earns 200,000 while she sells feet pics, another 10,000 men close their wallets and open a brokerage account. Every time the government announces another $1 trillion deficit, another 10,000 men decide that fiat is a scam and Bitcoin is salvation. Like this is compounding and this is exponential. This is the biggest story of our lifetime, and almost nobody in mainstream media will touch it with a 10-foot pole because the implications are too terrifying. If men en masse decide that peace is worth more than provision, the entire Western economic model collapses within a generation, and that collapse has already started. You're living through it right now. So the only question left is which side of history are you going to be on? The side that keeps lying to itself, hoping the old incentives magically come back, or the side that sees reality clearly, adapts ruthlessly, and builds something new on the ashes? Because the old world is dying, And the men who walked away aren't going to save it. They're too busy saving themselves. The next phase is already rolling out in real time, and most people are still staring at their phones waiting for someone to tell them what they're seeing. Phase one was the awakening, men realizing the contract was broken. Phase two was the exit, millions of men quietly reducing their economic footprint, going minimalist, refusing marriage, refusing kids, refusing the 9 to 5 death march. Phase three is what we're sliding into right now, and it's the part almost nobody is ready for. Phase three is when the men who walked away stop merely surviving and start building parallel systems. They're not asking for permission anymore. They're not waiting for society to fix itself. They're not hoping the politicians suddenly grow a conscience. They're doing what men have always done when the civilization they were born into stops serving them. They're creating their own. You're already seeing the early versions. Private men's networks that function like modern day monasteries. No women, no drama, no leaks. Guys pooling money to buy land in Idaho, Montana, Texas, Portugal, Thailand, wherever the government is small and the cost of living is low. 50-acre compounds with shared gyms, saunas, ranges, gardens, solar arrays, Starlink, and a strict no simping clause written into the LLC paperwork. Digital nomads who haven't paid income tax in a first world country in 5 years because they live in places that don't have it, or because they structured their income through crypto dividends and perpetual traveler strategies. Crypto communities where men are openly teaching other men how to disappear from the financial surveillance grid while still stacking wealth. Brotherhoods that meet in person once a quarter, lift, shoot, eat steak, talk business, exchange skills, then vanish back into their individual fortresses of solitude. These aren't fringe weirdos. These are former engineers, veterans, entrepreneurs, tradesmen, doctors, lawyers, men who used to be the backbone of the old system, now deliberately removing themselves from it and building something that can't be infiltrated or taxed into oblivion. And the beauty of it, it's all opt in. No one is forcing anyone, no one is preaching hate. It's just men who looked at the flaming dumpster fire and said, I'm going to build a cabin in the woods, figuratively and literally. And anyone who wants real peace is welcome to earn a seat at the fire. That's the future that's being born right now, while the legacy media is still trying to figure out why engagement rings are collecting dust in jewelry store cases. But let's not pretend the collapse side of the equation isn't accelerating just as fast. Every month, another major city announces that rent has gone up another 15 to 20% year over year. Every month, another round of layoffs hits industries that were supposedly recession proof. Every month, another cohort of women in their mid to late 30s wakes up to the reality that the corporate job they were told would fulfill them forever is now automating them out of existence. And the biological clock they were told was a social construct is very much a real thing. And every month, another wave of those same women post the same script. I'm 36. I have my master's degree. I make six figures. I travel. I love brunch. I go to therapy. I have a golden retriever, and I just can't find a good man. All the men my age are broke or emotionally unavailable or still live with their moms. Translation: I spent my prime years chasing credentials, corporate ladders, and situationships with men way above my league. And now that my fertility window is closing and inflation is eating my income, I need a stable, high earning man to rescue me from the consequences of my own choices. And those men won't even look in my direction. And the men just keep scrolling because they've seen the playbook. They've watched their dads get destroyed. They've watched their buddies get cleaned out in divorce court. They've watched the culture celebrate single mothers while demonizing involved fathers. They've done the math on paternity fraud rates, false accusations, Title IX kangaroo courts, and the 97% conviction rate in domestic cases when a woman makes the call. They're not hateful. They're vaccinated. They've built immunity to the old manipulation of tactics, and immunity spreads faster than any virus. That's why the "Where Have All the Good Men Gone" videos now get ratioed into oblivion in the comments by men who aren't even angry anymore. They're amused. They drop a simple, "You told us to get lost. We got lost. Good luck," and then go back to their deadlifts and dividend alerts. The cope from the blue pill crowd is getting louder and more desperate by the week. They say, "Not all women." Men reply, "We're playing the odds, not the exceptions." They say, "You just haven't met the right one." Men reply, "We're not looking anymore." They say, "You're going to die alone." Yeah. Men reply, "So are you. The difference is I'll have peace and money when I do." They say, "This is just toxic incel rhetoric." Hey guys, listen up. If you're tired of going through life alone and you want real brotherhood with men who actually think and grind like you, then check out Angry Guys Clubhouse. It's a community built around brotherhood, passive income, business insights, and even expat living. Plus, you get access to our private men's chat where real conversations happen every day. And when you sign up, you'll get the passive income blueprint and the expat blueprint free just for joining. Don't wait. The link is in the description. Go check it out now. Men reply, "Incel means involuntary celibate. Choosing peace over chaos isn't involuntary. It's the most voluntary thing I've ever done." And the best part, these men aren't debating anymore. They're not trying to convince anyone. They're not making content to own the feminists. They're just living it. They're the quiet guys at the gym who are jacked at 45 with a calm energy you can feel across the room. They're the dudes in the airport with a carry-on and a passport full of stamps who never check a dating app. They're the ones buying land with cash while everyone else is arguing about politics on X. They've already won. The game was over the moment they stopped playing. And now the rest of the world is slowly waking up to the fact that the emperor has no clothes, and the clothes were woven out of male sacrifice all along. Let me take you down a level deeper, because this isn't just about dating or marriage or even economics in the narrow sense. This is civilizational. Every empire that has ever fallen went through the same sequence. First, men build it with blood and sweat. Second, women and children are protected by that effort. Third, comfort sets in. Fourth, the protected class starts to resent and criticize the protectors. Fifth, the protectors are told their protection is actually oppression. Sixth, the protectors are taxed, regulated, and punished for protecting. Seventh, the protectors shrug, walk away, and find something better to do. Eighth, the empire collapses from within because no one is left willing to do the hard thing when it's required. We are not the first society to run this play. We're just the first one to live stream it. Rome had the exact same problem in the 3rd and 4th centuries. Roman men stopped joining the legions because citizenship had been given away. Taxes were crushing, marriage laws favored women, and the barbarians were already inside the gates collecting welfare. The empire had to hire mercenaries who had zero loyalty, and we all know how that ended. Sparta collapsed when Spartan men decided having one wife and a tiny plot of land wasn't worth dying in endless wars for. They started refusing to marry and have kids. Birth rate fell off a cliff. A few generations later, Sparta was a tourist attraction with a population smaller than a modern high school. We're not special. We're just repeating the pattern with better technology and worse coping mechanisms. Only this time, the men who are walking away aren't riding off to start a farm on the frontier. They're building digital fortresses, crypto wallets, remote income streams, and international lifestyles that no government can fully track or tax. They're not hiding in caves. They're hiding in plain sight. And the more the system screams, the more men wake up. Every viral divorce horror story is another recruitment video. Every high value woman rant is another advertisement for the monastery. Every new tax, every new regulation, every new speech about toxic masculinity is just free marketing for the red pill industrial complex. The system is doing the sales job for us. And that's the part that keeps me up at night, not out of fear, but out of awe. Because this isn't a movement you can stop. It's a phase change. It's water turning to steam. You can't negotiate with physics. You can pass all the bachelor taxes you want. Men will move to Puerto Rico, Dubai, El Salvador, Paraguay, wherever the territorial tax system lets them keep what they earn. You can demonize manosphere content. Men will just use VPNs and decentralized platforms. You can try to shame them back into the plantation. Men will just laugh and keep lifting. And you can flood the country with immigrants to replace the missing male taxpayers. Those immigrants will figure out the same math in 10 years and do the exact same thing. There is no policy fix for a belief collapse. Once men stop believing that their sacrifice will be honored, it's game over. And the belief is gone. It's not coming back. The genie is out of the bottle, and he's jacked, stoic, financially literate, and has a one-way ticket to somewhere the passports are cheap and the women still smile when a man walks into a room. That's the new reality. And the craziest part, most of these men still wish women well. They genuinely do. They don't want anyone to suffer. They just refuse to set themselves on fire to keep someone else warm who told them their fire was the problem. That's not hate. That's boundaries. That's not bitterness. That's clarity. That's not weakness. That's the strongest thing a man can do. Choose himself when everyone and everything else has proven they won't. So, where do we go from here? For the men watching this, keep going, double down, triple down. Your peace is the most valuable asset you will ever own. Protect it like your life depends on it, because it does. Build your body, your bank account, your brotherhood, your skills, your exit routes. Make yourself anti-fragile. Make yourself uncancelable. Make yourself so valuable to yourself that no external force can ever move you against your will again. For the women who somehow made it this far into the video without rage quitting, this is not an attack on you personally. This is a weather report. The storm is here. You still have time to adapt, to course correct, to build real value, to approach men with respect instead of demands. Some of you will, most won't. That's not my prediction. That's just history. For everyone else, pick a side. You can keep pretending the old rules still apply and wonder why everything keeps getting worse. Or you can open your eyes, accept reality, and start building something that actually works in the world that's emerging. Because the world of 2015 is dead, and the world of 2030 is already under construction. And the men who walked away are the ones holding the blueprints. The next 5 years are already written in the numbers, and most people are going to be shocked at how fast the dominoes fall once a few more big ones tip over. I'm not predicting this because I'm some oracle. I'm reading the same public data everyone else has access to. I'm just willing to connect the dots without putting a happy face sticker over the picture. Let's start with the one nobody wants to say out loud: the coming pension and entitlement crash. Right now, in the United States, there are about 67 million people collecting Social Security and Medicare benefits. By 2035, that number explodes past 90 million. The Social Security Trust Fund is currently projected to be fully depleted by 2033 to 2034 under the most optimistic assumptions. Medicare's Hospital Insurance Trust Fund runs dry even sooner, 2031, in the latest trustees report. Who was supposed to pay for all of that? The kids. Except the kids never showed up because the men who would have fathered them looked at the price tag and said, "Not my circus, not my monkeys." Every year that the fertility rate stays below replacement, the worker to retiree ratio gets worse. In 1940, there were 42 workers per retiree. In 1960, 5 to 1. Today it's under 2.8 to 1 and falling fast. By 2040, it will be 2 to 1 or lower in most Western countries. That's not sustainable. That's a death spiral. And no, immigration doesn't fix it. Immigrants age too, and second generation immigrants have even lower fertility rates than natives in almost every Western country. Plus, the men walking away aren't being replaced by high skilled, high tax paying immigrants. They're being replaced by net consumers who qualify for benefits the day they land. The math gets worse, not better. So, what happens when the checks bounce? And option A, massive benefit cuts, 20 to 30% across the board overnight. Option B, massive tax increases, top marginal rates shooting past 70% again, plus wealth taxes, exit taxes, transaction taxes, anything they can dream up. Option C, print money until the dollar dies and inflation finishes the job quietly. Every one of those options accelerates the very thing causing the crisis. Men refusing to participate, raise taxes to 70%. More men drop their income below the taxable threshold or leave the country entirely. Cut benefits? The last remaining boomers who were still voting finally give up on the system and stop caring. Hyperinflate the currency? Congratulations, you just wiped out the last reason anyone was holding fiat savings to begin with. Bitcoin and hard assets finish their takeover. Pick your poison. They all taste the same. And it's not just America. Japan is already there. Debt to GDP over 260%, deflationary spiral, pension system eating 50% of the national budget, and young men completely checked out. Italy, Spain, Greece, same story, different accents, and even Germany, the last responsible European country, is staring at a demographic cliff that makes the 2008 financial crisis look like a speed bump. The entire developed world built a promise it can't keep. And the collateral for that promise was unlimited male productivity. The collateral has left the building. But let's bring it back to the individual level, because that's where this hits hardest. Imagine you're a 28-year-old guy in 2025. You graduated college with $60,000 in student debt. You make $68,000 a year before taxes. After taxes, health insurance, and loan payments, you take home maybe $42,000. Average rent for a one bedroom in a city with jobs is $2,200 a month. Food, car, gas, insurance, another $1,200 easy. You're left with maybe $400 to $600 a month to save or date or have a life. Now you open Instagram and see the girl you went to high school with in Bali for the third time this year posting living my best life while making $48,000 a year doing marketing for a toothpaste company. You open Tinder and the bios all say 6'2" plus because apparently 5'11" is too short now. And I love to travel. My dog is my soulmate. No hookups. Looking for something real that hopefully leads to a ring and a destination wedding within 18 months. You do the math and realize that even if you land one of these mythical unicorns, the average wedding now costs $35,000 to $50,000. That's on you. The average honeymoon, another $10,000. And within 5 years, you'll be expected to buy a $600,000 starter home with a 7.5% mortgage while she works on her passion project, and you both figure out kids later. Meanwhile, your dad lost the house in 2019 because mom decided she wasn't happy after 28 years, took half his 401k, moved her new boyfriend in 6 weeks later, and now collects $2,800 a month in alimony while posting hashtag boss babe memes. You look at all of that and you decide to learn options trading instead. 6 months later, you're living in a studio for $950, eating ribeyes you bought straight from a rancher co-op, pulling $4,000 to $6,000 a month from the wheel strategy, debt-free, jacked, sleeping 8 hours a night, and taking 2 months in Medellin every winter because the dollar still goes far there. And society calls you the problem. That kid isn't an outlier anymore. He's the new normal. Multiply them by 5 million, 10 million, 20 million across the West, and you understand why entire industries are quietly panicking behind closed doors. Car dealerships can't move $80,000 trucks when the guys who used to buy them now ride a motorcycle or a 10-year-old Civic they paid cash for. Jewelry stores are closing locations because nobody's buying $15,000 engagement rings to lock down a 31-year-old with a body count higher than a Vietnam vet. Family restaurants are dying because date night is now replaced by meal prep and YouTube. Therapists are busier than ever, but their waiting rooms are 80% women trying to figure out why Chad stopped texting. Every brick and mortar business model built on male provision and female consumption is bleeding out, and the only thing keeping the corpse twitching is government debt and central bank money printers. But printers break eventually, and when they do, the reckoning will be biblical. Cities that priced men out of home ownership will become ghost towns of renters who can't afford to stay and can't sell to leave. 401ks will turn into 101ks overnight. The women who spent their 20s finding themselves on cruise ships and yoga retreats will be competing for Section 8 housing with 3 cats and a GoFundMe. The men who walked away early will be living on rural compounds, offshore accounts, or low-cost foreign countries, watching the feed on Starlink and eating steak they grew themselves. And nobody will be coming to save the ones who spent 20 years telling men they weren't needed. That's not vengeance, that's physics. You remove the foundation, the building falls. Simple. But here's the part I actually get excited about: the rebirth that's already happening on the other side of the collapse. Because men walking away aren't just hiding, they're building. I've seen the groups, private discords, Telegram channels, in person meetups where men are teaching each other plumbing, electrical work, small engine repair, farming, crypto, firearms, wilderness medicine, off grid solar, water purification, everything you need to run a small community without ever plugging back into the dying grid. I've watched men in their 30s and 40s buy raw land in cash, throw up a barn, run fiber and Starlink, and turn it into a family compound where their brothers, fathers, and best friends all have their own plots and they share equipment, labor, and defense. I've seen 25-year-olds with 6-figure crypto portfolios mentoring 40-year-olds who just escaped the corporate plantation on how to protect and grow what they have left. I've seen veterans teaching younger guys close quarters combat and land navigation just in case. This isn't LARPing. This is preparation. And it's all opt-in, merit-based, and 100% drama-free because the one rule is universal: no women in the core structure until she's been vetted for years and proves she adds more value than she consumes. Most of these groups have decided it's just easier and safer to keep it men only and let the few based women who actually exist find them individually. That's the new tribe. That's the new nation state in embryo. Small, distributed, armed, financially independent, skill stacked, and loyal only to each other. The Roman Empire died. The barbarian tribes that replaced it became France, Spain, Germany, England. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes hard. And we're watching the rhyme unfold in real time. So if you're a man watching this and you still feel that pull, that quiet voice telling you something is deeply wrong with the world you are handed, listen to it. That voice isn't depression. It's your ancestors screaming from the blood that you were never meant to live like this. You were meant to build, to protect, to conquer, to legacy max. The current system took that from you and gave you wage slavery and Netflix in return. Take it back. Start today. Lift, stack, learn, connect, locate, fortify. Your peace is your responsibility. Your future is your responsibility. Your legacy or your freedom to have no legacy at all is your responsibility. And if you're a woman who made it to the end of this video, understand this is not hate. This is the clearest mirror anyone will ever hold up to the collective choices that brought us here. You still have time. Not much, but some. Drop the entitlement. Build real value. Approach men with respect and humility instead of a checklist. Learn to cook, train, shoot, garden, budget, and add to a man's life instead of subtracting. A few of you will, most won't. Either way, the future will sort itself out with cold, brutal efficiency, and the men who walked away will be fine. We're already forgiven. We're already at peace, and we're not coming back to save a system that never saved us. What did you think about all of this? Do you see it playing out in your own city, your own friend group, your own family? Are you one of the men who already walked away? Or are you still on the fence, trying to decide if the juice is worth the squeeze? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. Like the video if it hit hard. Subscribe if you're ready for more truth bombs that the algorithm tries to hide. Share this with every man you know who needs to hear it. And just remember, all roads lead to MWA. Men walking away. Cheers.
Nothing says you care like crypto. Nothing can compare. Nothing says you care like crypto. Oh, nothing can compare to crypto.